Ideally, anyway, you know? We have had a fairly quick semifinals, so yeah, hopefully that's a good sign for our grand finales as we now load into Ancient Sister. Now we're over here in the bottom left-hand corner map, starting all the way at the bottom left-hand corner. We, of course, have our red Zerg player coming out from the land of Korea. We have our red Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming, EKG. We have Dark.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Terran player representing Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN.
ByuN not going for the low ground racks this time.
Yeah, he's crazy. Oh my god. For the first time in a very long time, he's not going for the ByuN opener.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's not going for the ByuN opener. Maybe it could still be a 2-on-1, but yeah, it's not going to be on the low ground. It's probably not going to be 3 Reapers if that's the case. He's playing a lot more safe this time.
Yeah, he's going for a reactor first as well, so very greedy here from ByuN. No SCV scout, no Reaper, no Marine, is going straight into his CC on the low ground.
Yeah. So still taking a little bit of a risk here, but yeah, opting to give up that much earlier map control in exchange for more Marines? I mean, that's the only thing you can really be getting at this point.
Yeah, you know, just faster Marine production, just a faster CC in general, just cutting corners here. I'm not even going for the SCV scouts, so we're just saving some minerals as well. And there we go, the factory is now in production, so a very interesting opener here from ByuN. And meanwhile, across the map, Dark, he was getting ready for a 2x opener. His third base is delayed. He prioritized gas mining, so he's rushing into link speed. He's getting ready for Reapers that are not showing up.
I can see him shaking his head vigorously right now. He even...
Yeah,
he's even bringing the drone home because he's like, no.
He feels
this
uneasy.
This has to be a trick.
Yeah.
Finally, he scouts, he sees the 1-1, and he's like, this guy.
Yeah. I don't blame Dark for pulling back. It's like he did a double take. He's like, there's something wrong in the air. Like, there's something amiss here, a disturbance in the force. ByuN is not going for the racks, it's for the Reapers. So, yeah, ByuN, as a result, he's going to be able to take a bit of a better economic lead. Dark, interesting. 6 more links are in production. It looks like he wants to make use of this link speed. He wants to make this worth his while.
Yeah, I mean, he has to at this point, right? Considering how delayed his third base is by comparison.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like the Link's going to bypass the main army of ByuN. The Marines are pushing out across the map. These are vanilla Marines. Bear that in mind. But we have more Lings in production for Dark. He's going to bypass the army, dips into the natural, and... oh, that's a lot of SCVs that could go down. But we do have Hellions back at home.
Yeah, I like this from Dark. Not risking going up the ramp. Although he will be able to slip on through and get a full scout. Will confirm the 1-1-1. Instead, he prioritizes the SCVs and the Mule as well. ByuN taking quite a couple of hits here to his economy.
Yeah, the Marines have to come back home because the Queens and Lings are in position. So Dark making some lemonade out of those lemons, making some magic happen, getting a lot of economic damage done. And that full scout is really important as well. A 1-1-1 isn't too common. This is a very aggressive opener here out of ByuN to delay his third CC.
Yeah, well, I think I'm typically more used to seeing a 3cc before Starport coming up from Terran players, but ByuN does not let up. If not for the scout, you know, there's no reason for Dark not to just assume that it is a 3cc before Starport, and he would be droning up much more vigorously. Instead, he's getting spores, crawlers at every base. He's droning up to about 40-ish workers, but he's going to stop droning after that point.
Yeah, and hopefully he has something prepared for the assault. He hasn't scouted this yet, but it is going to be a Banshee Hellbat push as the armory is about to finish up. So a very committed attack here from ByuN. It has to do damage. That's why he went for the faster Marines as well. He will have a lot to support this army. The armory is about to finish, and the Bailey Nest is late.
Very late. Dark is going to have to rely on nothing but links. He will be able to slip into the natural base once again, however, getting a lot of SCV damage. Even pulls back the rest of the army here of ByuN. Huge move here from Dark.
Wow, exactly. Everything comes back home. This was designed to be a very crisp timing with Hellbats, but this is a timing that ByuN is missing as he doubles down. He throws down 2 more Raxes. This is a 2-base all-in.
Yeah, Dark had to buy time, and he got the deal of a lifetime with that one move.
Yeah, the Baneling Nest is done. Like, the Baneling Nest actually finishes in time for this attack now. No Banelings are done yet, though, and ByuN is pushing up this ramp again. Dark was really not expecting a Hellbat push of all things, and he's not quite ready with his Banelings, not yet.
And when they do pop out, there will be slow Banelings as well. ByuN trying to zone them away with his Hellbats. Queens are doing a good job of, bruising the Hellbats, but the link count has pretty much been reset. The defender's advantage, however, should be good enough here for Dark to once again push this back. He's actually going for a Dropper Lord. You love to see it.
A slow drop into the main. Meanwhile, 2 more Raxes were thrown down, so if you didn't think it was a 2-base before, we have confirmation. ByuN does not intend to take a 3rd base anytime soon. He still has an army across the map, but he doesn't really have much at home to defend. He's got a handful of Marines. The drop is coming in, and Dark is looking to cripple the economy once again.
Like, sometimes a handful of Marines is all you need, but probably not in this case. As the Lings do get some very good pickoffs here. Once again, just prevents ByuN from reinforcing across the map as well. Even forcing a repair on these supply depots. And when you're going for an all-in, this is the last thing you want to spend your money on.
Oh, it really is. The wall does fall for a moment. Meanwhile, those things that were in the main base, there weren't that many of them, but they get even more damage done. 7, 8, 9 SCVs going down. And that Hellbat army across the map has to come back home once again.
Yeah, Dark didn't have that many Lings here in the main base, but ByuN kind of underestimated the fact that there were still Lings over there. He brought his entire army onto the low ground, and that just allowed those 2 Lings of Dark to get 7 more SCV kills or something like that.
Yeah, it was insane what they were able to get done. Meanwhile, back at home, what's important is that Ling drop also scattered the main, and Dark, he also checked the natural. He sees that there's no 3rd base, so he knows about the all-in. It does mean that he's going to temper his droning. He's going to saturate 3 bases. 67 workers is good enough. He should be stopping, and he's making roaches.
Yeah, it's especially good enough when your opponent's only on 44 workers.
You could argue that maybe Dark has over drones. He has to be careful to make sure that he just focuses on army production. Here we go. We have another drop into the main base. The all-in is coming. It is spotted by Dark. At the same time, we have a drop in the main base, but it is being deflected.
Yeah, Dark is definitely over drones. He should just mule. Forehead.
And
I get why most Zerg players don't just mule.
Shake. As this 4th is a little bit exposed, and it may go down here for Dark, but not the most important hatchery for Dark. He doesn't really have to fight for it. He just has to consolidate his army. Roach speed is still on the way. 1-1 is still on the way, so there's no need for him to just overextend and fight into the Terran.
Yeah, he's more than willing to give up that 4th, just to buy himself a little bit more time to get an even stronger defensive position. Now, a couple of tanks are on the map right now, which could spell trouble for these Roaches and Ravagers, but we'll see how good the actual positioning of the tanks and how good the positioning of the Roach army is.
Yeah, exactly. As we do see the army pushing on forward, going to be dancing with the Roaches of Dark. At the same time, we have that double jump coming in, but we have reinforcements in position as well. Good target firing. One of the medics does go down.
The other one will be badly bruised just as it makes it out of here.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the drop in the main base is going to pull back ByuN's attention for a moment. Still no 3rd CC. We're still very committed. We're still very all-in. He's working on +2. And what's important is that ByuN still has a pretty terrifying army. Like, his army supply is pretty comparable with that of Dark's. It's just pushing onto creep is going to be a very difficult thing to do. Like, he has to be very slow, very methodical with how he fights.
Yeah, he really does, but I'm not sure if he'll have enough time to actually get his... I'm not sure if he'll be able to really assault Dark in time, let me put it that way, because Dark, he has overdroned once again. He is up to 75 workers, and yeah, he can afford to throw army at ByuN. and trade inefficiently a few more times.
He can, but this is a pretty good position. One tank is going to be going down. We have a lot of Marines here on the ground. Dark is going to try to collapse on this army. The Ling buffer is being cleaned up. We have Banelings rolling in.
Banelings rolling in, zoning away the bio. I don't think we've really had much of a Baneling connection yet, but these Banelings have done their job, and they have just, you know, cleared up space to allow for these Ravagers to rain down upon these tanks. Without any tank support, these Marines are in a lot of trouble, but while that main engagement was happening, ByuN was able to take out a 4th base.
Yeah, the hatchery goes down. He doesn't get the workers. You can see that even though Dark has a large worker count, he is oversaturated heavily here at his 3rd. He desperately needs a 4th to really make this worth his while. But at the same time, I don't really think he needs a 4th base economy. Like, ByuN, he already lost all of his tanks. He's desperately trying to, or he's even long distance mining. He now throws down a 3rd CC, a very late 3rd. ByuN, it looks like he realizes that he cannot kill his opponent. He's going to try to transition into a longer game.
And now we're about to see a complete flip when it comes to the attacker-defender dynamic, as Dark already has a couple of Vipers out on the map. You know, it'll take a little bit of time for them to suck on that youth juice and gather that energy, but I mean, there's no easy answer for ByuN anymore to deal with the army of Dark.
There isn't, and the Ling run by it gets into the natural base, doesn't get too much economic damage done, but it does pull back the army of ByuN, just giving Dark a little bit more freedom, a little bit more breathing room as he establishes this 4th base once again. As you mentioned, Dark, he already has a hive. He's working towards 3-3, soon adrenal glands, I imagine. Like, Dark, tech-wise, he's so far ahead.
Insanely far ahead. He's already getting +3. Carapace working on +2 melee.
Yeah,
and as you said, he has those Vipers already.
Yeah, he has the Vipers for Parasitic Bones, so Blinding Clouds. The army on the right-hand side has been spotted, so Dark is repositioning. And he does leave some Ling Bane behind here to deal with that double drop as well. ByuN is now finally establishing that 3rd base, but he needs quite some time to get this up and running. Time that Dark isn't going to give him, because Dark, now that he has his 4th up and running, is about to max out.
Pretty much. He's still overdrilled a little, though. IMO, but yeah, it's healthy enough. You know, it's allowing him to get a maxed out army.
It didn't kill him, you know? I was worried that it would, but he didn't die, right? So here we go. We do have some Blinding Clouds being thrown down. Power Bombs as well on the Medivacs, as the tanks are going to get yoinked. And here we go. ByuN is going to try to push in, but there's just so much Zerg waiting for him.
Yeah, the Bile's doing such a good job of zoning away this army. ByuN, preoccupied for just a couple of seconds trying to clear up these rocks, will allow Dark to converge and get some very key Baneling connections and Bile connections even on top of his army.
Yeah, exactly, as we see ByuN sending out another force here towards the top left, but there is an army of Dark split up, ready and waiting to engage here with ByuN. Again, Dark having the foresight here to just be ready for this at any moment, and there are some Widow Mines. We could see some really good connections. That's what we have to rely on.
I like the retargeting on this one mine, but eventually it will have to commit to some target. Dark losing a couple of units here and there, but nowhere near enough to really put a dent in its defenses.
Yeah, a lot of Ravagers are getting sniped, so an efficient trade here by ByuN, but he just doesn't have enough to clean this up. He does deny the 5th base, but he is being forced back here on the left-hand side. Likewise, he just doesn't have enough to gain any ground. ByuN doesn't break these bases, and he needs to. He's trying to. Very similar to Cure, except a little bit more desperate from ByuN here, as he's just sending everything across the map.
Yeah, very aggressively. For a brief moment, I had some hope for ByuN here, as they both had about 60-ish army supply, but then Dark spent all of his larva, and yeah, we can see him really eclipse we can really see him eclipse ByuN in that regard.
We really can, as the mines are being cleaned up. We have a massive lane counterattack. There's nothing to protect this 3rd base. We have some reinforcements nearby, but SCVs are falling. SCVs that ByuN can't afford to lose.
Yeah, he was playing on the economic back foot for the entirety of this game. If this final mining base goes down, he will have basically 0 income. I mean, already we can look at the worker graph, or the income graph, sorry, and we can see just how heavily in favor of the red it is.
Oof. Yeah, as ByuN does Sim 40, takes a Baneling to the face. 12 SCVs go down. The main base has been lifted and landed as a 4th. So ByuN, he's desperately just trying to squeeze out as much as he can from as little workers as possible. So he has an economy to work with, don't get us wrong, but Dark has so much more momentum. The Vipers have survived. He's remaxing once again, and he's looking to punish these bases.
Yeah, if not for the Vipers, I would say it would be worth it for ByuN to pull the boys, but at this point, I don't think that will really do too much for him. Dark going for an assault here or for an offensive here, and he will be chased back, but again, Dark can't afford to trade inefficiently. ByuN cannot afford to trade imperfectly.
Exactly, as more workers are going down, GG gets called, and Dark will take game number 1.
GG, that's why we don't go for builds that aren't the ByuN opening.
And to kind of to put some emphasis on that as well, this wasn't just not the ByuN opener. This is something we don't see too often. I'm sure you're aware of this, but in TvZ, 2-base all-ins aren't very common at all. We do see a lot of 2-base all-ins against like Protoss and against Terran, but against Zerg not so much. So really wild play here from ByuN, really risky play, but was kind of coming out of the gate stumbling already, right? If you remember, it all started with Dark getting economic damage. It all started with him pulling back the Hellbat push and delaying the Hellbat push for the Banelings. Like, the early game was so in favor of Dark. The drop play as well, the Ling drop.
You put a lot of faith into what I am and am not aware of, but yeah, now that you mention it, I think you're right. I was gonna argue against your point. See, well, I mean, Marine Hellbat Banshee openings are a thing, but you know, going back in my recollection, usually the minute the Terran player is across the map with those units, or by the time they first get pushed back, they're already transitioning, getting their 3rd base. ByuN was very reluctant to get a 3rd base. He was getting like I think he went up to 7 Raxes before he even got a 3rd base. He was somehow convinced that he could win that game with just a 2-base all-in, but Dark was looking to refute that confidence.
He was, and in the end, he was able to take a series, and here he is in the bottom right-hand corner of Babylon. We have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark.
And over here in the top left-hand corner map, swatting all the way in the top left-hand corner, we of course have our blue Terran player coming out from the land of Korea. He is going to be representing Shopify Rebellion. He is ByuN. Going for a proxy.
Here we go. We have the proxy racks upon us. Ay, ay, ay. And yeah, we'll see if Dark is able to get a read on this. He's going to be moving out with his first Overlord. We have the second Overlord moving out towards the left-hand side, as you were mentioning, and it is going to come across the proxy. Oh my god.
Yep. This is literally right in the path. This is literally a path that will make this Overlord fly directly over the Rax's ByuN. Even like, bruh. Just ignore this.
Bruh, you see nothing. No. Leave me alone. Drones are being pulled. The first Rax is going to finish, though. Bearing in mind, this is a proxy 2 Rax, not a 3 Rax. So you can transition out of this a little bit more seamlessly. But ideally, you get some damage done here, as it looks like can both Raxes finish. Oh.
Well, if the RNG is good enough, it looks like ByuN will just barely not be able to complete the second Rax. That SCV that evacuated, that SCV is a coward, let me tell you.
It's almost dead.
Just one more second. Just one more second.
True.
Could have completed the Rax.
True.
That SCV needs to be punished.
There you go. It could have given up its life for the cause, but alas, was not able to. Did tuck tail and turn around as the first Reaper makes it into the main base, but Dark, he's pretty comfortable. It's only a proxy single rack, so there's no threat of bunkers, there's no big threat to Dark at all. As long as he can control, as long as he can preserve his workers, he should be okay.
Yeah, it's not only a proxy 1 rack. Rack. It's not only a proxy 1 rack, it's a proxy 1 rack that has delayed the transition of ByuN as well. I mean, getting the natural base now is not terrible timing, but like you said, he was delaying his natural base so that he would get a second Narax up, so that he would have more Reapers out in the map wreaking havoc.
Exactly. So ByuN is going to be starting from behind, essentially. He is going to be looking to try to bounce back, but as you mentioned, he has a delayed factory, he has a delayed CC, he's going to have delayed mining at his natural, and Dark confirms everything. He goes into the main with his Overlord, he does see everything, and I wonder what is being said right now. I'm curious. Bring out the Google lens, Sparky.
Bruh, you're serious right now. ByuN saying, yes. Very.
Can I get a read on this? Can I get a read? So Dark, as long as the translation's on point, Dark was like, why am I behind? Which I don't think he is, to be honest. But, I mean, to be fair, what I will say is that Dark doesn't have a third. And that is going to be an issue here for him.
Yeah, it really will be. Unlike the previous game, where there were no Reapers on the map, Dark was able to establish a third base. Now we can see that it's even further delayed, because these Reapers are real. They're not just the paranoia of Dark. They are actually here, and they will actually deny any drone from building a hatchery.
Yeah, and instead of a third base, Dark, one, he's going for a scout, but he's going for a very fast lair. This was around a 4-minute lair timing, and he's going into a fast Roach Warren as well.
Yeah, I think a little bit late to be considered a Roach rush, but this will allow him to get Roaches a little bit earlier on. It will allow him to get Roach speed, and will allow him to gain map control with his Roaches a little bit quicker. I'm not so sure if he can really go across the map and contain ByuN on 2 bases at this timing, but yeah, it's a pretty good way of just getting ahead from, in his view, being behind.
Yeah, exactly. And again, a big reason for that perception is just the late third base. We can see that ByuN is still struggling to saturate his natural. Like, he himself was behind as well economically, as, he's looking to reciprocate that. He goes for a Viking drop into the main, gets 1 drone. Oh no!
And not much else, unfortunate having here for this Viking. We'll have it go down. Meanwhile, the Hellions and the Reaper will get chased away by the Queen. So you happen to know what ByuN adds at Dark with, though?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh.
It was like one letter, right?
I'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah.
As we do
That's
see
my Korean to English dictionary.
As Dark is getting his third base slowly up and running, 1-1 is on the way. Again, Dark, he did prioritize his Evo chambers and upgrades in favor of a later third, and he will be able to hit a very strong 1-1 timing. Interesting, he's rushing into an infestation pit as well.
That's a very fast infestation pit at this point. Wow.
Yeah, so it looks like Dark isn't going for a 1-1 timing. It looks like he's going for a longer game. As Banshee dips into the main base, the spores are not done. Dark was not ready for this, and as a result, he's losing so much mining time in the main.
Yeah, and that really puts a dampener in his plans.
It really does, as the Banshees rotate between the bases, head towards the third. 6 workers already going down. Oh, Dark losing a lot of momentum here.
Indeed. It turns out ByuN's answer was C. Just the letter C is what Google Lens is telling me.
There you go. C, Papi, C. Exactly.
C.
Yeah, from here, Dark, he's got quite a lot of droning that he has to do. He is actually getting a nice surround on this Reaper, so again, making some magic happen, but he loses 2 more workers. So the reasoning for this infestation bit was for infestors. Fungals do support Roach Ravager a lot, and again, the reason why we see these infestors is because I'm pretty sure Dark does intend to go into the mid game, into a later game, into a longer game.
Yeah. He knows those infestors will just get more and more useful as time goes on, as the game continues to progress. So might as well invest in them early, you know, instead of getting a Baneling nest.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see kind of if Dark is able to get into the mid game in a good position. For now, he's saturated on 3 bases. He should be working, there we go, on a 4th base as well. But before we can really get into 4th base mining, we have a double drop headed towards the main base of Dark. And he does have infestors, but they don't have enough energy for fungals.
Yeah, these drops are gonna be getting quite a lot done, actually. This entire middle line is super vulnerable. 8 workers already go down. Finally, we do have 1 fungal landing on the medevac, so it does mean that these Marines won't be able to evacuate out of here, but 9 drones have already gone down.
Yeah, that's a lot of economic damage. 9 workers falling. The economy of Dark just hasn't been able to flourish this game. Looking at the unit slots tab, 19 drones have died throughout the course of this game. And because of that, Dark knows that he is, again, like, hurting quite a lot economically. He's got some droning to do, and because of that, he's just establishing himself in his side of the map. I don't see him attacking anytime soon. I think he's just planning to absorb the attacks here of ByuN instead.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way for him to go across the map and get damage done when he has invested this much into infestors, right? If this was more of a Lingbane Roach army composition, then yeah, I could definitely see him going across the map, going for some counterattacks, but it isn't. His army supply is just about even with ByuN's right now. And his army isn't as efficient supply-wise, so he really has to consolidate all of his forces together.
It really does. A solid fungal on those medevacs, but there's no way to really shut them down. There is no anti-air, as ByuN is going to be able to keep this drop alive. Behind this, we are not going into Hydras. I assume that we would be going into Hydras and eventually Lurkers, but no. Instead, Ultras.
If this was any other Zerg player, I would have assumed the same thing, Light, but this is Dark that we're talking about. He is very, very fond of his Ultra play. I will say this, though. Usually when he goes to Ultras, he goes Lingbane into Ultras, right? He gets his Lings, he gets his Baneling Nest, he gets literally no other tech, and then he gets his Ultra Den. His Ultra Cavern. This time, though, he has Roaches, he has Infestors, he even has Vipers before throwing down that Ultra Cavern, so not quite what I'm used to seeing here from Dark, but one that I still think will be quite effective. Why is...
As a mistake.
He threw out...
As Dark does end up catching the drop here, cleans up all the Marines, they throw down a Microbial Shroud on the army.
It took me a second to process not just what I was seeing, but to remember what Microbial Shroud actually does. I was like, oh, he's making it so that the Marines aren't going to be as effective. I'm like, wait a minute, no. that only protects units from Zerg units from airbase attacks.
Yeah. I was in a very similar situation. I think it was like a couple of months ago. The spell, it wasn't used, but like infestors were being made, and it was going to be used with Hydras against Skytos, and I was like, oh, he wants the Blinding Shroud? Like I was like, what is it called? Like I just couldn't remember for the life of me the name of that spell. It's just been so long. But yeah, not really something you see too often in StarCraft. So we do have a drop coming into the main base, but it should be cleaned up. Is going to be shut down.
Feels bad, man, when you load up your... When you hot pick up your bio and your medevac goes down anyway.
Feels bad as ByuN, the drop play is stopping. Over the course of this game, it has slowly just been calming down, and ByuN is just establishing himself on these 4 bases. We have sensor towers, we have planetaries on the way, the tank lines, towers are being knocked down. ByuN is turtling here on these 4 bases.
Something tells me that ByuN was tuning in to Dark versus Cure. He's noticed how, you know, that hyper-aggressive style needs to be executed just about perfectly, and yeah, Dark really isn't having any of it today, so ByuN is opting for a much more defensive style, but Dark is going for a massive assault here. towards the third base location. Almost 30 SCVs already go down.
Wow.
And a couple of mules as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a really devastating attack there. Despite the defensive position, a lot of these tanks were out of position. They were towards the south, and Dark, he gains so much ground. He doesn't kill a base, but as you mentioned, he got a lot of economic damage done. He killed some tanks, marines, ghosts even. A good trade here from Dark, and he's going to be able to remax and rebuild.
Like so. Dark has already taken control of his entire side of the map. He is mining about twice as many minerals as ByuN, and he's starting to really grow a bank when it comes to the minerals. At least he's still starving a little bit when it comes to gas, but hopefully the Lings will be able to make up for it. Huge EMPs, getting just about every single Viper, but not before a lot of important blinding clouds get thrown down. Couple of fungals land, and it will allow Dark to clean up the bio.
Exactly, and it's very important you just point that out because the bio army just crumbled before the might of Dark. Looking at the units tab, 0 ghosts. 0 ghosts are left after that. We have to start from scratch. That was, again, a very efficient fight out of Dark. Very good use of those Vipers, and the Vipers, they did survive. They're gathering up that energy once again, getting ready for another attack.
Yeah. Like so. He's reconsolidating his forces, getting his banelings together. These SCVs are trying to retreat, but they retreat right into the banelings.
Yeah, they go to the closest base.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, and that was his building plan as Harry reveals this base as well to Dark as he rotates around. 22 SCVs go down, and another base is denied. Meanwhile, ByuN is transitioning into some Liberators as well. This is a pretty well-fortified position, especially with these rocks, but Dark is taking every other base on the map.
Yeah, once again, we're seeing a very similar dynamic to honestly, to Cure versus Dark on this very same map, where Dark just gets economic control, takes just about every base, even denies bases here of ByuN, and he's just flexing his economic might. He can trade as inefficiently as possible and still have enough army to remax.
Yeah, and he bypasses the bio army, gets on top of the majority of the tanks as well. Again, a very good angle of attack from Dark. Is going to take some losses here. He's going to have to back off and rebuild, but this time we have Ultras coming into the mix. Checking the units lost tab here, it looks like 1 Viper did fall, but 2 did survive, and they're going to be able to get even more value.
Like so. It never gets old seeing the new Ultralist size with the classic skin. Huge fungal, but unfortunately not much of a follow-up here for Dark. A couple of Liberators do manage to siege up as well, getting a couple of volleys off on this Zerg army. Dark will be able to clear the ground army, but will not have enough momentum to keep this push going.
Yeah, this was an interesting attack from Dark. I think it was a little bit wasteful, not gonna lie. A couple of Ultras went down to the Liberators. So an interesting choice there from Dark, but he is able to hold on to that bottom left-hand base, is able to commence mining there momentarily as well. I don't know if you noticed, but Dark has been slowly getting rid of his Roach Ravager. He's refining his army with more of a Ling Bane heavy composition.
He has, in fact, huge choke point here for ByuN, which will mean that just about every single Baneling goes down before getting any connections, really. A couple of Lings are finally able to slip in, though, and there we have it. 22 SCVs go down. A huge chunk of the Hellbats and the tanks go down as well. Finally, the Liberators get dealt with. Dark is now starting to invest in Hydras, which was really what he was missing for a very, very long time, was effective anti-air.
Exactly, and the Hydras have arrived. The Lingbane Hydra is what he wants to work with. Again, a bit of an early fight here, but he's trying to get on top of these ghosts. He's trying to clean them up. Alas, he will not be able to. Will lose all of his Hydras.
But none of his Lings. GG is called, and Dark finds himself on match point.
GG, well played. Here we go. Dark taking game number 2 despite a shaky start. Not so much the opener, but ByuN was doing a really good job of just getting economic damage done. Remember, there was a time like 10 minutes into, or 9 minutes into the game, when Dark, he had lost 19 drones as opposed to the one of ByuN. Dark had to really slow the game down and slowly get into those investors, into the roaches, into his own bases before snowballing out of control.
Yeah, that was definitely a moment of opportunity there. If ByuN was able to kind of put 2 and 2 together, to be fair, he was kind of denied map control very, very early on, so he wasn't really able to get on the map and really figure out what Dark was doing until much, much later, after the infestors showed themselves and after they had a decent amount of energy on them. ByuN still had a little bit of catching up to do, even though it was a decent opportunity for ByuN, he still had a little bit of catching up to do, and yeah, by the time he got to that point, Dark was already 1 step ahead.
He really was, and as a result, I was not expecting this, but he's 1 game away from becoming this week's ESL Open Cup Asia champion. Does it all end here and now? Spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark.
Meanwhile, over here in the bottom right-hand corner map, starting all the way in the bottom right-hand corner, we have our blue Terran player coming out from the land of Korea. He is, of course, going to be representing Shopify Rebellion. He is ByuN.
And ByuN has been very unorthodox this series. Game 1, he went for a very greedy opener into a 2-base all-in, if you remember. Game number 2, he went for a proxy 2-racks, and here in Game 3, he's not going for the ByuN opener. He's not going for the 2-racks on the low ground. So ByuN really working against his image against Dark. And on the one hand, I think that makes a lot of sense. Dark, at this point, is very well versed against the 2-racks, and it does feel like ByuN is just trying to like metagame him a little bit and try to work against his image.
Yeah, I do think that ever since Gamers 8, the consensus is that the 2-racks to ByuN opening is very much hard countered by just throwing lings, making nothing but lings, taking out the Reapers, and then going for a huge counterattack as well. So maybe not as effective as it used to be, and like you said, ByuN is just kind of hoping that Dark assumes that ByuN is going to be somewhat predictable and go for that same opening once again, and hope that he overreacts. But even if he doesn't, the 1-1-1 is still much safer regardless.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, it worked out for ByuN in Game 1. Remember, like Dark mind gamed himself in Game 1, delaying his third and rushing into Ling speed. I mean, he still did damage with it, to be fair. he still made use of it, but yeah, it is something that did kind of work initially. Likewise, Dark also prioritized Link Speed this time as well. Link Speed is already on the way for Dark as he confirms the low ground expansion.
Like so. Kind of surprised that Dark did decide to go for Link Speed first, but like you said, I think he just wants to make sure he's as safe as can be against a player as chaotic as ByuN. I was kind of expecting more of an earlier third hatchery coming out from Dark like he did against Kjor in this map.
Yeah, same. I thought so as well. I thought we would get like another gasless opener, but no. Dark likewise working against his image. Meanwhile, a very aggressive opener from ByuN. It is a 1-1-1. We saw the last time we had this setup, it went into a 2-base all-in on Ancient Cistern from ByuN. We'll see how long he delays his third base and if he goes for another 2-base all-in or if he's just going for a more aggressive opener.
Well, Medevac is popping out first here from ByuN, so already we can see that he wants to be across the map with his Hellions. That's a lot of lings that Dark is producing right now, even though he's confirmed that this isn't a 2-on-1.
He's link flooding. He's straight up link flooding his opponent. The Hellions have been a little bit delayed. We get a surround, and the Marines are going down. The Hellions should be able to hold the line, though. We are going to be able to force Dark back, but we have more lings where that came from.
Much, much more. If ByuN isn't quick enough to react with his Hellions, these lings are going to have a field day surrounding them and taking out just about everything. There's not really enough Marines to deal with this just yet. It's all going to come down to the Hellions.
Yeah, and so far, good positioning out of ByuN, able to use the terrain to his advantage to get a lot of splash damage on those things. The depot is going to go down, 2 SCVs as well, but again, with good control from ByuN, he's able to defend, able to hold on to his natural.
Like so. Dark forced to retreat and hasn't really been able to make use of his lings.
Yeah, meanwhile, even though it was a 1-1-1, it did go for a medevac first, so he's going for a vanilla marine drop across the map. We do have a bit of an add-on swap. We have that Liberator on the way as well, so yeah, really interesting stuff coming out from ByuN. It is going to be supply blocking Dark.
Yeah, I'm liking this. He doesn't really have stim, he doesn't really have a lot of marines, so he can't really go for creep clearing, but he can pick off a couple of stray overlords here and there, and yeah, he's forcing a lot of larva of Dark to be used somewhat inefficiently.
That's another Hellbat push.
Oh, well. Hopefully it's not another 2-base all-in this time coming out from ByuN.
That's the thing. We have to see if he throws down more Raxes. If he throws down another 2 Raxes before a 3rd CC, then that would be the beginnings of a 2-base all-in. For now, it is just a Hellbat push with stim. Bear that in mind. But there it is. No more Raxes.
I'm glad I didn't reach for the copium yet, Light. I was going to say, well, 3 Raxes still doesn't mean that he's going to be all in, you know? If he gets 5 Raxes, then it usually means they're all in, but it doesn't have to be an all in. They can still transition from there. You know, if there were 7 Raxes, it's not too late to get a 3rd.
You're not all in unless you get 12 Raxes, okay? What do you mean, Poppy? It's just dedicated pressure. As here we go, the Hellbats to reveal themselves. Banelings are not ready for this. We do have a lot of Queens, but so far they are being zoned away. No damage done yet. Dark doing a great job at buying time.
Yeah, great positioning here from ByuN, but even better posturing from Dark, I would say. He's being so careful not to suicide his lings into these Hellbats. He's doing a pretty good job of target firing. He already took down the medevac, and now the Hellions and the Marines don't really have any more support, but he has to be much more careful with his lings. He just sacrificed pretty much his entire ling army for 2 Hellbats.
Yeah, again, a very close fight here. It looks like Dark should be able to clean this up. At the same time, we have a Liberator in the main base, dancing with the Queen of Dark. It looks like a couple of drones are going to go down, but Dark, he will defend. It did cost him a lot. Looking at the unit slots tab, Dark, he lost 6 Queens and a lot of lings. Actually, those things died earlier, but 6 Queens in the defense.
Yeah, 6 Queens, and by my estimate, maybe about 15. If I'm being a very conservative estimate, about 15 lings. Probably more than that, probably like 20-something.
Yeah, exactly. So what's good here is that, sure, ByuN, he didn't do economic damage, but he didn't have to. He wasn't all in, right? He had a 3rd base, so killing Queens is really what he was looking for, and that will slow down the creep spread, will slow down the production here of Dark, and it is going to allow ByuN to get this 3rd base up and running, hopefully without too much issue.
Well, we'll see about that, as ByuN is getting a little bit of pressure. Dark is sending a couple of lings across the map, but yeah, nothing that these Marines can't really deal with. Dark doesn't really have a Baneling count yet. Does he have a Baneling nest yet? He doesn't, actually.
Very greedy here. Dark, he's rushing into his upgrades first. He delayed his lair in favor of 1-1. So because of that, Baneling speed is going to be delayed. Baneling nest is on the way, sure, but again, Dark is prioritizing his upgrades more than anything. So a very greedy opener here out of Dark.
Yeah, not something that I'm typically used to, but you know, if he can keep up with his defense, then I think it should be able to pay off for him. It's pretty rare that we get to a situation where each subsequent Terran push is scarier than the last, but when you don't have any Banelings, that is the reality. Every subsequent Terran push is that much more scary as the Marines get better upgraded, as more of them come out, and you really don't have a counter to them.
Yeah, exactly. As we do see the double jump coming across them, the Queens are going to try and collapse onto the medevacs. It looks like we should have enough to clean this up. The Queens, one of them will go down. Really good positioning here out of ByuN. He's trading so well against the Lings.
That is such a good choke point to utilize. For a couple of seconds there, the Queens actually were even body blocking the Lings as they were trying to go after the Medivacs, but that's just too much damage. GG is called as ByuN will be fighting back, will be taking a map in this best of 5 grand finales.
GG, well played. We were talking about the greed of Dark. We were talking about how he was delaying his Baneling nest, and you can get away with that, sure, but we saw that with the control of ByuN, it's difficult to get away without Banelings, as he was able to just position himself so beautifully, trade efficiently against the Lings, and snowball out of control.
Like, so that's what happens when you don't go 2 base all in.
Yeah, exactly. Stop it, ByuN, stop it.
Do it, ByuN, do it. This is a good map for it. You know you want to. You know you want to pull the boys.
Oh boy, and this is why we are only casters, okay? We don't. God, that's the Yaku. As we are getting into our next game, and I mean, what I'm happy about is that, as you kind of mentioned, it's not going to be a 3-0. It's not going to be one-sided. You know, we have more of a back and forth.
Definitely. And it'd be very weird to see a one-sided series with these two players, but regardless, we are going to be continuing it on here on map number 4, game number 4. I guess map number 4 works as well, but so does game number 4. I'm just going to call it map number 4, despite the fact that it is game number 4. Although it is kind of both of them in the end. Anyway, we're here on Royal Blood. We're in the bottom left-hand corner map, starting all the way in the bottom left-hand corner. We have our red Zerg player coming out from the land of Korea, going to be representing CranKy Gaming, DKG. We have Dark.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner, let's go, going for what he is known for, going for the ByuN opener, the 2 axes on the low ground. We have the South Korean Terran player fighting back in this series, putting a point on the board. It is ByuN.
I think that was the stipulation that he signed with Dark. He's not allowed to use the ByuN opener until he takes a map.
That is the rule. That is the rule. Also, if I'm not mistaken, let me just double check something. I think we may have just gotten a point redemption.
Oh,
we did at the start of the broadcast. So Yaku, after this series,
yes,
after the finals, would you be willing to join me for a replay cast of one game?
Oh, all right. Is it a TvZ?
I don't think so.
Is it a TvT?
It's a TvZ.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might work.
We'll have a break in between. Okay. But yeah.
But I was gonna say my ears perked up because I forgot that for a split second I forgot that we got rid of Espanol intro. So that was a point redemption.
You're like, oh, el hermoso, papi. Let's go. Let's.
Y sí, el azul, Taran. Tenemos aquí.
Oh, sí. En la esquina.
Ah, rojas. Rojas, hombre.
Beautiful.
Izquierda, down.
It's a beautiful language, Jack. It's a beautiful language. As the initial Reapers are going to be applying pressure here to Doug, just poking, prodding. Doug did go for a third base. Wasn't delayed for too much longer here, as he's able to establish himself here on this side of the map. Back across the map, ByuN going for a third Rax behind this. Is he going to go for a fourth Rax? It's been a while since we've seen this, if he does go up to 4 Raxes.
He might go for the Cure build.
He could go for the Cure follow-up, yeah.
Oh, we'll see about that. So far, he hasn't thrown down a third CC, so yeah, somehow I doubt it's going to be what we saw from Cure on Babylon.
Yeah, for those wondering, 4X follow-ups are very committed. It's not going to be 4X, we would have seen one by now. But they're very committed. They provide you a lot of Marines, you hit with Stim, but because it's so committed, you have to do damage, and there's a lot of pressure on you to to push into a base and kill workers. With 3 racks, it's a little bit less so. You can transition a little bit more seamlessly out of it into the 3rd base, which is what Cure was doing. That's what we should be seeing out of ByuN. This shouldn't be an all-in by any means, but we will have a lot of Marines to work with.
Yeah, we'll just keep our eyes peeled on that production tab for either CC timing or 2 more axes. It's gonna be 2 more axes. It's gonna be 2 more axes.
Oh god, you're an animal, you're an animal. As for now, we see an Eva Chamber on the way for Dark for +1 carapace. The Marines are moving out. They're going to be spotted by the Lings of Dark as well, and he's going to have to consolidate his forces. He's getting ready for a surround. Stim is going to finish up in a couple of seconds. It is not done yet.
It will be not done just yet. Dark gets a full surround on top of the army of ByuN here, and we'll be able to clean it out. Massive Ling flood follow-up coming out from Dark, looking to reciprocate the damage, but at the same time, Dark also knows that, or he should know anyway, that he is ahead economically. He just needs to try to contain ByuN for as long as possible.
Exactly. Should be looking for that contain. Meanwhile, we have a factory behind this. 1 engineering bay. Are we not going to... We're not seeing a 3rd CC, mate.
It's a 2 base all in.
It is.
Yeah. That's all you need.
You're like, 2 bases, that's macro, Papi, okay? That's more than 1. That is all you need. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to build the 2nd CC. You know, you don't get it for free.
True. So, very committed here out of ByuN. Wouldn't be surprising if he throws down additional production buildings. The longer this goes on without a 3rd CC, the more pressure is on ByuN to get damage done with this next attack. Meanwhile, back at home, you see Dark just saturating his bases. He's actually getting into a Roach Warren.
Like so.
And we do have a 3rd CC on the way here for ByuN, thankfully, but it is very delayed. It's a very delayed...
That's just for mining.
It's a very delayed 3rd CC here, so because of that, he's going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little more in the face of Dark. We'll see what he can get done. Medevacs are on the horizon. Stim has completed. ByuN is about to hit the field.
He is about to hit the field with a rather potent Marine army. Not as large as it otherwise could be, thanks to that attack from Dark earlier on, but still very, very potent. These are stimmed Marines, which by the time they hit should have +1 and should have the support of at least 1 tank. I say that, but ByuN's actually using that tank more for safety.
Well, let's get that tank back at home instead. Already a very efficient trade out of ByuN. He got 14 Lings for nothing. So a very good trade here from our Korean Terran, as he's going to rotate around, clean up a lot of this creep. Ooh, Dark actually heavily supply blocked. He's got 6 Overlords on the way.
Yeah, he wasn't really anticipating ByuN to hit at this particular moment. He was happily gathering his army, he was happily droning up, but now the pressure is on for Dark to increase the supply and increase his available supply as well. With the 3rd base landing, ByuN isn't as pressured to end the game just yet, but he still needs to do some kind of damage. If we can deny this gold base of Dark, that would be ideal, definitely. But even just, you know, getting a couple of drones and whatnot would still make this worth it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And we'll see how ByuN is able to pull apart his opponents. We have quite a lot of Marines out of the map already, and we do see ByuN dropping into said main base, trying to pull apart the attention here of Dark. Likewise, also on the right-hand side, Dark so far is keeping up.
Yeah, having a very mobile force here. ByuN hasn't scouted the gold base just yet. In fact, it doesn't seem like he suspects it either. He actually went up the ramp to try to clear creep.
Exactly, is attempting to clear that creep. ByuN getting his 3rd base up and running so far, fully operational. Tank count getting a little bit higher as well, but Dark has done a great job of just slowing the game down a little bit here as he's getting into his Roach production. He's also getting away with that gold.
Yeah, almost fully saturating that up, and obviously the other important thing to take note of with this gold base is that it is very close to the territory of ByuN. It can also act as a bit of a launch pad here for Dark to gather reinforcements, for him to go for attacks, and for him to contain ByuN on these 3 bases.
Yeah, exactly. As we have the jump pushing through the center is going to be forced back. At the same time, we have the Roach Ravager hitting across the map as well. 1 tank goes down, but only oh my god, only a single tank as Biles will connect.
Yeah, a decent chunk of the Bio army will go down, but not a devastating amount. Obviously, the tank still surviving is the most important thing here for ByuN. It allows him to survive and allows him to continue mining from that 3rd base, eventually rebuild that army. Finally, ByuN sees this gold base of Dark and will be able to punish it.
Yeah, he will be able to deny mining here. He doesn't get too many workers, but at least he's able to do some economic damage to Dark. Meanwhile, Dark is about to max out. Doesn't have the most efficient army. That's the downside of Roach Ravager. It is very supply inefficient, but he is now maxed, getting ready to push in and try to break this third. The rocks have been knocked down. Dark, he's getting ready.
Getting ready to rumble as he does push in with his Roaches and Ravagers. This isn't his main army. He's just trying to get rid of the tanks and to make the second assault a little bit easier. Tanks finally start to fall. Only one of them is sieged up in range, and the Roaches have absolutely zero trouble clearing out everything else.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. As the Roaches, they just power their way through. ByuN went for a double drop across the map, but he has nothing at home to defend, nothing to protect these tanks as they all go down one after the other. GG gets called, and Dark will take the series 3-1, becoming this week's ESL Open Cup Asia champion.
I didn't even realize it until you said it, Light, but yeah, that's 3 games to Dark. GG, well played. Dark looking absolutely dominant throughout today's entire bracket. Dropping 1 game to ByuN here in the best of 5, but that felt a little bit more of that, typical Dark, I'm gonna do something weird now that I'm ahead in this series. Rather than,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. As we did have quite a back and forth at least, but yeah, overall, Dark just having the number of ByuN here. Really interesting to see ByuN kind of deviate from his normal play. It did feel very metagamey. That's what happens when like 2 players that are very familiar with each other, when they face off, they just play in a very unorthodox fashion because they're so familiar with each other. We see it a lot with Dark versus Hero, and we see it with ByuN versus Dark as well. So it was a treat. It was definitely a treat.
Indeed it was. Indeed it was. These 2 players definitely have quite a history with each other, going back and forth since really the start of Legacy of the Void. It has been that one TvZ rivalry that has been prevailing at many points when it seemed like ByuN was the best player, the best Terran player in the world. Dark would be the one to kind of give him a run for his money, and vice versa. When Dark looked like he was a player at the top of the world, ByuN would usually be the one player who was able to take him down and kind of have his number.
Definitely. And yeah, with that, congratulations to Dark for becoming this week's champion. My condolences to ByuN. Did put up a good fight, but alas, was not able to hold a candle to the might that is Dark, as he does bow out here. But 2nd place isn't too bad at all. So yeah, again, really well done here by ByuN.
Definitely. Yeah, still will be paid out in both ESL points and in prize money. So yeah, don't think it is still something that can stack up, no doubt. The ESL points, I mean, something that can definitely stack up. That's how Hero Marine was actually able to qualify for IEM Katowice last year? No, 2 years ago, 2021.
Yeah, exactly. So again, with that, really well done there by Dark. If you're a fan of ByuN, I'm sure we're going to be seeing more of it tomorrow, because our next broadcast is going to be ESL Open Cup Americas in less than 24 hours. So be sure you are there for that next event, where I'm sure ByuN and Dark are going to be showcasing themselves, potentially Hero, potentially Classic as well. Basically, the Koreans that wake up early enough will be a part of tomorrow's tournament. So the ESL Open Cups, they don't stop.
No, they don't stop coming. Well, except for the middle of the week.
There you go. There you go. With that as well, we are going to be going on a short break. I mentioned it earlier, but we do have a replay cast. We have a replay cast to cover after this. So yeah, we'll be able to jump into that momentarily. If you were only here for the professional StarCraft, then we bid you adieu. We appreciate that you tuned in. I believe Frost in the chat redeemed a replay cast, so was a ladder game. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they want us or why she wants us to cast it, but we will. And I hope you're ready for it
because it's weird.
That's usually
why people redeem the cast.
Yeah. If there's a cast redemption, it's usually because they were clowning Papi. So someone was a clown, someone was an ape, and it's gonna be something to remember.
Indeed. So we look forward to that, and we will be witnessing that in just a couple of minutes. So, yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and we will be back in a few minutes.
Yes. If you enjoyed this tournament, ESL Open Cup Asia, it is a weekly tournament, so you can be here, of course, in the coming weeks for some more Korean StarCraft. We're always going to be here to bring this to you. Likewise, follow us on the CranKy Ducklings. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we are on Discord, we are on all things CranKy Ducklings, ! Socials in the chat. As we're going to be going on that short break, when we return, we have one more game for you.
Indeed. Uno más. Uno más en un momento. Por favor.
See you soon.